Plenty can change in 3 years, and England will certainly be hoping that's the case for their tour of India. With a new captain and coach, can England better their result from last time? Joined by two of my favourite bats, let's get into it. To look at what might be different, we first need to look at what happened last time. Over a 4-match series, India won 3-1. A bright spot for England was the 227-run victory in Chennai in the first test, but things quickly went downhill. The runs dried up, wickets were hard to come by, and England was sent home licking their wounds. The first change to note is the squad itself. Whilst there'll be plenty of familiar faces, there'll also be many new ones. Looking at England's squad, we can see the changes. The opening partnership of Burns and Sibley makes way for Crawley and Duckett. Joss Buttler's gloves are in a tug-of-war between Jonny Bairstow and Ben Foakes, and England's spin attack has gotten conspicuously taller. Amongst all of this is the change in leadership. England's loss in 2021 set the tone for a difficult year. Whilst Joe Root's personal form was nothing short of spectacular, a poor run of results led to him losing his job as captain and Chris Silverwood stepping down as coach. Enter Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum. Now, it's highly unlikely this is the first time you're hearing about England and their so-called revolution, but you couldn't talk about this series without talking about what's different under Stokes and McCullum. Bazball, a term that's been used for a million different things, but is best described as a high-intent, aggressive style of cricket. In terms of batting, this means a high run rate and looking to take the positive option. But there is a spectrum within this. This doesn't mean England will be hitting every ball for six, but it also doesn't mean that there won't be times where they're trying to. This goes some way to explaining the changes made to the batters in the squad. Crawley and Duckett make for a stark contrast with Burns and Sibley. Whilst the partnership is still a left-hand, right-hand combination, the style of play is completely different. And at this juncture, it might be mentioning that this doesn't explain every change. Joss Buttler is a player who we think of as being a highly aggressive player, but he found himself out of the squad after a poor run of form. And I wouldn't be myself if I didn't take every chance to talk about how much I just want Joss Buttler to play for England in every format, in every game, forever. Sidebar. Building on this idea of aggression, this style is highly win-loss oriented. You probably can't go more than 5 minutes without an England player talking about how bad a draw is, so expect some strange declarations, some funky field placements, and Harry Brook to start bowling. England are quite likely to risk a loss if they think it can get them a win. Overall, the big change in batting can be described as moving from attrition to aggression. In 2021, the formula was bat first, bat once, and bat big. Time was no issue. Now, time is equally disregarded, but for the different belief that you go about scoring runs as quickly as possible. Of course, this in line with cricket has been very batting-centric so far. The bowling has undergone some major changes too. For one, the approach to fast bowling has changed. 3 years ago, a core belief was that they needed high pace to be a point of difference away from home. The plan was to rotate Stone, Wood and Archer in short and sharp spells of bowling fast and bowling hard. This has changed. Most strikingly, you'll look at England's squad and notice a relative lack of pace options. Archer and Stone have both been lost to injury, and Ben Stokes can no longer bowl. What this leaves England with is Wood, Atkinson as the other speedster, and then Robinson and Anderson to offer control. Where things start to get a bit more strange is with the spinners. In 2021, you were never more than 5 minutes from a tall Indian finger spinner taking a wicket. Indeed, England and fans alike were given nightmares by Ravichandran Ashwin and Akshar Patel. Taking 32 and 27 wickets each, neither averaged above 15 with the ball. These nightmares have been so bad, in fact, that England have decided to copy them. When the England squad came out, the inclusion of Tom Hartley and Shoaib Bashir raised a lot of eyebrows. Neither have set the world alight domestically, but they do have one thing in common. They are very, very tall. Very quickly, talk of high release points became a joke amongst England fans, with England's new focus being on getting the spinners to bowl from a considerable height. And it might sound a bit crazy, but England are clearly influenced by what they struggled with last time. It's very much a case of, if you can't beat them, join them. So what does this mean for England's overall chances? Well, India remains one of the hardest places to tour. It's pretty difficult to get a test victory there, let alone a series one. And in terms of bowling, you have to first think about the pitches. And don't worry, this isn't an England fan moaning about pitches, I promise. Last time out, the surface at Chennai suited big first innings runs. You won the toss, you batted first, you batted for some good time, and you hoped that the pitch would come into it as the test went on. High pace increased the chance of creating issues, reverse swing even became a factor. But if the pitch is turned from the off, spin becomes even more important. There's a pretty good chance that we see the bowling open by Jack Leach and one lucky other player. And for all the talk of tall boys, there's a pretty good chance England start with the more diminutive Rayan Ahmed. As a pick, this is certainly one of interest. Games in India are often dominated by accurate and nagging finger spinners, Rayan Ahmed is a leggy. A leggy, and a very young one at that. Playing in India is by far the greatest test in his career so far. And it's one that could have pretty major ramifications for England's overall chances. Bowl a bit of magic, England come into a game. Bowl a loose spell, the game runs away. Similarly, the batting is much more forward than it was last time out. With Burns and Sibley, you were never going to get ahead of the game too quickly. For them to rack up a score, they needed time. It would be a few sessions until they built something considerable. Crawley and Duckett, on the other hand, are much more likely to get you off to a rapid start. In 2021, England suffered a lot with low individual scores, but they also struggled to get going. Now this year, I'm sure they'll get plenty of low individual scores again, but there's a much higher chance that Crawley or Duckett does something in just 30 balls. Yet for all the talk of change, one major constant remains, and that is the importance of Joe Root. In the Test arena for England, the route to victory is often the root who's at number 4. Joe Root is a fantastic player of spin, so if we do get turning pitches, his form is going to be vital. And for all the changes in the batting order around him, Joe Root is still one of the best Test batters in the world. With plenty of new faces, I'd still back Joe Root to give the greatest return. So England are heading to India with plenty of changes on paper, and they'll certainly be hoping to put up more of a fight than they did last time. Now, is that enough to win more tests than they did last time? Is that enough to win a test? I don't know. But I do know I'll be dragging myself out of bed at 4 AM each time to find out.